August 2nd, 2004. This morning, Maddie had a 3-hour assessment by the school district. All through it, I missed Cess dreadfully, partly because she would have loved to have seen Maddie's progress and the fine impression our daughter made on the assessors, but partly I missed her because no fact of Maddie's life escaped Cess, and the assessors asked all kinds of questions I couldn't answer. They wanted to know when Maddie first sat up, first walked, first spoke. I could provide a little more than, a couple of years ago sometime. Cess would have said she first sat up at 2:30 p.m. on Tuesday, February 16, 2002. She might have had to look it up in one of the journals she kept on Maddie's development, but she'd have had the information. If I knew where those journals were, I could go in and tell you what Maddie had for lunch on that date. Today didn't allow me to feel like a good mother, at least as Cess would have defined it. And in so many ways, Cess did define it. Yes, she was neurotic and obsessive, but with Maddie, those were just extreme forms of determination and devotion. The assessors today were trying to determine Maddie's vocabulary and enunciation. They showed her some toys and asked her to name them. She did well with a cow and a ball and even a yo-yo. Then they put a little yellow toy vehicle with big knobby tires in front of her. Maddie stared at it and said nothing. They asked again. Still nothing. With slightly raised eyebrows, one of the assessors said to the other one in a whisper, "I guess it's just too much for her to say truck." Maddie looked at her and said, "It's not a truck, it's a bulldozer." You know, even if she were a tantrum-throwing, snotty little brat, I'd love her. But this is a piece of cake. Angel food. The book grew out of a series of emails, an email newsletter that I was writing every night for a year to keep family and friends up to date after my daughter Maddie was diagnosed with autism and my wife Cecily was diagnosed with lung cancer, all of which occurred within just a matter of 5 or 6 weeks. And I couldn't keep everyone up to date on the phone every day. It was just too time consuming, and I began to write an email every night. And these went from being kind of a newsletter to being a journal of the whole experience. And people began passing them on to other people, and pretty soon I had a whole lot of people all around the world reading them. And at some point, I started getting suggestions that I should turn it into a book, and I was kind of reluctant at first, but eventually I came around to the idea that it might be helpful just to throw some light on a path that a whole lot of people go down. And 4 or 5 years later, here we are. Well, I wrote every night for a year, and then at the end of a year, I felt like it was a solid single unit, and that I could stop, and I did stop. But I keep people up to date on what's going on with me and Maddie, and we. Every month or two I'll write a little something, but not the every night thing. Maddie is 7 now, 7.5. Yeah, so she's in the 2nd grade and doing splendidly. I mean, when she was 2 and had the autism diagnosis, we were just terribly concerned and very devastated, because we thought this is going to mean something awful for her entire life. But we were very, very blessed. And she's come back remarkably, far more than we ever dreamed possible. So, she's 7.5 in 2nd grade in a regular, typical mainstream elementary school and having a great time of life. I didn't turn this into a book just to share Jim Beaver's sad story, because everybody's got a sad story in their life. All families do. But I felt like there was something that I learned an awful lot during the course of that year. I learned an awful lot about how good people are, about how much love there is in the world, about the depths of sorrow and how to deal with grief, and it just seemed that those lessons were worth sharing. It seemed kind of silly to me they were so profound to me that it seemed crazy to keep them to myself. And I don't expect to inspire anybody, but I might throw a little light on a path, and if I do, I feel very grateful for the opportunity.